Emily smiled as she stepped out of her home to get onto the bus for school. Today was a good day. Today, Emily would fully turn into a woman. Today, Emily would age 1 year. As tradition, on her birthdays, Emily would meet with her best friend Ariel and they would gossip about the day. Ariel never once forgot her birthday, and Emily the same. Petty but fun, the friends would compete with each other each year to get more kick-ass birthday presents. Last year, Emily bought Ariel a silver locket with her initials engraved onto the curled Gothic grooves. It was proof that they cared. Emily was pleased to know that Ariel had never taken it off the day she got it. Emily had hoped that today would be all they needed to repair their fragmented relationship. You see, in the past 11 months, Ariel had changed. She'd met a boy. It started off exactly 1 year ago, when Emily had aged 1 year closer to maturity. After the exchange of gifts, which was a handcrafted painting of a swallow, Emily's image and favourite bird personified on canvas forever, Ariel was catching up with Emily on new gossip. "What's new with you?" she asked, plucking savingly at her piece of cake that Emily had given to her, freshly cut from her birthday remembrance. "Oh, nothing much," Emily replied, truthfully. Around Ariel, she felt duller than drying paint. She couldn't paint like Ariel could, or dance, or smile. Hell, she couldn't do anything of substance. Her looks didn't help either. Emily was largely built and short. Her pear-shaped figure was heightened by her broad shoulders and large clammy breasts. Straw-like matted hair sat lifelessly atop her fat head, with her dorky glasses constantly sliding off on the bridge of her gargantuan nose. Ariel, on the other hand, was slender and beautiful. Her long raven hair curled lightly around her shoulders. She was thin but curvy. Her aqua eyes were deep and cerulean, contrasting Emily's cesspit brown pools. Ariel too wore glasses, but of course, like all other fit girls, she wore them better, and she looked so goddamn innocent regardless of what Emily knew of her sexual endeavours. She was, if not perfection, the closest human embodiment of it. "What about you?" Emily asked. She wished for one day she could be the perfect one, especially since it was her fucking birthday. "Well," Ariel grinned knowingly at Emily, satisfied at the information she was about to relay. "I've got a boyfriend!" She squealed excitedly, expecting an equal reaction from Emily. Emily sat there ignorantly. Being so ugly compared to someone so fine, she didn't know how to feel at this moment. Elation? Fear? She felt an overwhelming sense of joy for her best friend, hoping this one would treat her right this time. She'd lost count of the amount of times Ariel would sob to her about the infidelities or the broken hearts. Another thing that puzzled her about relationships: why would someone want to leave someone like her? Someone so flawless. For the rest of that year, Emily successfully concealed her jealousy. Occasionally, a jibe or two-pronged insult would have betrayed her lips, but thankfully, Emily treated this as satire. The downside of that escape. Ariel would retort in delight, fanning the flames of Emily's hatred more. Yet the temper Emily had gained was beginning to show. Cracks were appearing in complacence and threatened to expose the green, malevolent monster underneath her blotchy, imperfect skin. Their friendship now dangled precariously off a cliff, and the hope of renewal was as frayed like a rope, threatening to... Ariel's fingers clicked in annoyance as Emily sat beside her. She drew out her phone and called him, her new boyfriend. As she talked to her loving boyfriend with the loving recitals of the day, Emily sat there flabbergasted. Did she even see her? Right there. She was right there. She knew she was blandish, but she couldn't look away at the seat of the school bus, surely. But no. Despite the fact it was her birthday, he came first again. Anger tore through her. She felt urges, rage, blind inside her, threatening to explode. It wasn't fair. Always last, always. Seething, rocking. Eventually, Ariel's thrilling conversation came to an end, and she turned to Emily and, concerned, touched her lightly and compassionately on the arm. "What's wrong, sweetie?" she said. Her doughy, big, baby blue eyes implored. "What's wrong?" Emily bellowed, gaining the attention of all those on the bus. What's wrong is that I'm alone and will never be perfect, and all I fucking do is try to be nice to other people, and what do I get? A so-called friend who only cares about herself? Well, it's not fair, Ariel. I hate it that you think you can do this to me. I hate it that you isolate me. In fact, right now, I hate you! Emily screamed. All of her pent-up rage and feelings inside her flowing out of her like Ariel's tears. Emily was so enraged, she didn't even see the lorry colliding with the bus. Only too late did she see that Ariel hadn't done up her seatbelt and was hurtling towards the front window of the bus. She didn't even realise as she scrambled to try and grab her that Emily's screams would be the last thing that Ariel would ever hear. After the crash, Emily was told by the doctor to rest. According to him, she'd been through a terrible ordeal, but was one of the lucky ones. The irony in his statement. He might as well have cut her in two. She'd lost the other part to her, the only thing that made her whole, noticeable, human. She was nothing. Another stab to the heart. In Ariel's belongings, a small ring box was found labelled, "Happy birthday, Em." Sadness rising within her, Emily opened the box. It was a golden locket, identical to the silver one that she had gave her best friend earlier. There was a brief note attached, crafted lovingly, calligraphic writing, marking the words. "Dear Em, you help me so much and you don't even try. If I didn't have you as my friend, I would die."